Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Alder here with you. Welcome to the show. It's Tuesday. It's nice outside in Michigan. Pretty warm. I don't know why that matters. It doesn't. Everybody's like, "What is this, a weather report?" It's not. But welcome to the show. It goes back to the whole like, where some streamers and podcasters that I've watched are just like, it's 85 degrees in sunny California. Welcome to the show. I don't think you guys care. Let's be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe you do. Nonetheless, fun times. All right, anyway. So it's Tuesday. I'm in a weird mood, as always. It's one of those days. We're going to talk about, of course, the reaction to the LGBT ruling yesterday. Conservatives, let's just say they're not happy. So I'm going to talk about that, see what some of the conservative voices are saying. Fun times. Then we've got Donald Trump once again on coronavirus testing, saying ridiculously stupid / dangerous things. Fun. And as one of you, of course, says in the chat, let's see. What is it? Where is it? How the COVID tests are terrible. Yeah, no, they what they have to do, for those of you who are not familiar, to get tested for coronavirus, you literally have to have a swab shoved up your nose all the way back there. And then it's got to stay there for what, 5 to 10 seconds, I believe. And so, you got to keep it there. And there's like a gel on the end and it kind of burns. And then you got to have that of both nostrils. So you get done with one and then you get another one in the other. And it's terrible. I hear it's very terrible. I had a friend, of course, undergo COVID testing. Thankfully, she's clean. And so she described in great detail what you have to go through. And my entire reaction is, and guys, I've got white coat syndrome really bad, right? So I do not like going to the doctor. I do not like succumbing to tests, medical tests of basically any type. Stay the hell away from my orifices. And so I know, like, if I have to, I have to. But I'm like, no, if I don't have to, then I'm not gonna. I'm not going to. I'm basically going to try very hard to not expose myself to coronavirus. And obviously, if I have symptoms, then I'm going to get myself tested. But I really don't want to put myself in that situation because of how not only having coronavirus sucks, but also, of course, going through that testing, and then, of course, the anxiety about is it symptoms? Do I really have coronavirus? How bad could it get? How bad is it going to get? All that stuff. Not good. So, again, don't mess around with this. It's no joke. And the test, especially, is no joke. All right. Anyway, so that's coronavirus testing. We'll talk about Donald Trump and his thoughts on that. We also have Florida. We got coronavirus spikes in Florida and the reaction to that. So we also are going to talk about a little Trump family drama. And then we have Barbara Lee, progressive in Congress with a new resolution. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. COVID-19 throat test makes you gag, says Mad Hat 964. Yeah. No, definitely. Scott Bloom says microscope. Oh, shoved up my nose, so I think that'd be a walk in the park. Yeah, no, not interested. Not interested of having anything put in my orifices. Thank you. They should also be testing for antibodies. True, they should be. And they might. It really depends on the testing. Though I have read some articles that the antibody tests aren't exactly. I almost said antibody toddy. I don't know why. It's a day. It's Tuesday, and so no. I read some articles where antibody tests weren't exactly considered to be accurate. Although again, there's a lot we don't know about the virus. That said, there is news that there's a low-cost, somewhat effective treatment for coronavirus that could save 6,000 people or so. I believe I read in the article. So that's interesting. All right. Yes, Mithril points out an old steroid in use since the 1960s has proved useful in treating COVID-19 patients. What I had read is that it treats that it's more effective the worse that you get, right? And that you've seen improvements of people on oxygen and on ventilators, but it doesn't really have that big of an impact on people who aren't as sick. So they just have to go through, the fever and all those stuff if you have the mild symptoms. But hey, that's still good news. That's still helpful. And then, of course, Republicans and Trump are going to say, well, now that we have a somewhat effective treatment that isn't hydroxychloroquine, which has just been, of course, pulled from the, I believe, use from the CDC. Yeah. Not effective at all. I wonder when Trump's going to jump on it and say, that's it. Time to open up the rest of the country. We got a treatment. You never know, right? All right, anyway. Let's get started. Oh, you know what? Before I do, also, I know I have a New Zealander. New Zealand has 2 new cases of coronavirus. I don't know if he was going to mention that or if he's in the chat right now, but 2 new cases of COVID-19. And I think the blame is being blamed on British travelers. So congratulations. Great job. Great job, guys. All right. On Monday, Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Neil Gorsuch, both conservative, they sided with their liberal counterparts to deliver a landmark decision about LGBT workplace protections. So after that decision, conservatives online had a meltdown. So I want to read some of the reactions to this and kind of tell you why. So now Carrie Severino, who is the president of the Judicial Crisis Network. So that's a right-wing conservative group that is obviously in favor of activist judges, right? And you're going to see that that's a bit of a theme here. Now, she says, Justice Scalia would have been disappointed that his successor had bungled textualism so badly today for the sake of appealing to college campuses and editorial boards. This was not judging, this was legislating, a brute force attack on our constitutional system. So wait a minute. Now, it's basically interpreting Section 7 of the Civil Rights Act to cover people, because since it already covers sex, right? So you can't fire a woman for being a woman, right? Or a man for being a man, although that probably would never happen. Mainly used as a way of sexism. And expanding that definition of sex to include people with who are gay, members of the LGBT community, gay and trans, specifically in those protections, that is somehow a brute force attack on our constitutional system. Now, look, that LGBT people should have been part of that decision already. This should not have been an open question. Okay. Nonetheless, shouldn't have been an open question. But now, thankfully, we have protections for LGBTQ people. And the thing is, and I mentioned this when I covered this originally, right? How a lot of people don't realize that just being gay or being trans can get you fired from your job, or it could have before this ruling. A lot of people thought, no, come on, there's got to be protections for that, even if it's at the state level or something. And look, in some cities, in some states, sure, but what we needed was a federal ruling, and now we have that. So now, again, what Gorsuch had said here, and to get into specifics about how this is just an expansion of Title VII, is if you would fire somebody because of their sex or something related to their sex, which this is, then you're in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So you can't do that. And sexuality, of course, is related to your sex, and as well as, if you're transgender. None of those things, by the way, have anything to do with whether or not you can do the job. So, of course, that's not the case conservatives are making. I mean, yes, there's the quote-unquote originalist argument that a lot of conservatives make, but there's also the First Amendment argument, mainly, of course, freedom of religion or religious freedom. And this is what they've gone to use to try to codify religious discrimination against the LGBT community. And so that's what that is. That's the whole, being able to fire people for being gay or transgender or, even having premarital sex. I mean, that's another thing that conservatives were actually interested in being able to do. And I think there are Catholic schools and things like that had actually done so. But all right. Anyway, here's the thing. Businesses aren't religious. Yes, there are religious institutions, and there was actually another decision on religious institutions where they said you can't discriminate or you could lose your tax-exempt status, right? And so that's another decision that conservatives are very, very angry about. But here's the thing. Back to businesses, right? Because that's mainly what I'm focusing on. Is you have businesses that can't be religious, right? You can have owners that are religious or pervert, or do like a religious theme, I guess. Like, I don't know. I can't really think of a whole lot of religious themed stores, but I'm sure that they're out there. I just can't think any big examples of it. Although I know Hobby Lobby, they claim to be a religion. They don't claim to be a religion, but they claim to be like a religious store. But it really is just a craft store. The owners are religious, and that's my point. The owners are religious, and they're free to practice their own religion. But when it comes to hiring practices, that isn't involved in their religion. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Look, the First Amendment says people have the freedom to practice their religion. Meaning nobody can stop you from praying or fasting. But even then, there are some limits. For example, in Christianity, adulterers, people who, cheat on their wives or whatever, well, they're supposed to get stoned to death. Do we do that as a society now? No, because it's literally a crime. And yes, it says so that's the punishment in the Bible. There's a lot of ridiculous punishments in the Bible that we don't use. You know why? It's because we're not a theocracy. We're a secular society. And so, yes, there are limits to your religious freedom, and firing people because of their sexual orientation, because you found out that they're gay, is now a violation of that, or is now a violation of the law. And I think that's a good thing, because it again, you shouldn't be able to discriminate against those people when it comes to jobs. So again, you shouldn't be able to punish people because of your religion, right? Because they don't measure up to what your religious beliefs are. That's why, again, we decided in this country under the Constitution, that we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't discriminate. If you don't like that, go to a theocracy like Saudi Arabia, because they do that a lot there. We live in a representative democracy. We believe in the separation of church and state. And the founding fathers were a lot of things, right? Some good, some bad, but they are products of the Enlightenment, which promoted secular values, a secular government conducive of freedom and not tyranny of one religion dominating over any other. So there's that, right? So now, that said, more outrage. Vered Mehta, historian who has written for conservative outlets like The Federalist and The Washington Examiner, basically admitted that all they really wanted from Donald Trump's Supreme Court justice picks were activist partisan judges. Here's what she said on Twitter. It's saying, the whole point of the Federalist Society judicial project, the whole point of electing Trump to implement it, was to deliver Supreme Court victories to social conservatives. If they can't deliver anything that basic, there's no point for either. The damage is incalculable. There's more. He also said, he or she, I'm not sure, this is also the end of the Federalist Society judicial project. Gorsuch was grown in the Federalist Society lab and did this. The whole thing just imploded. It's all finished. They just admit that they didn't want the justices to interpret the law, even in an originalist saying, right, or perspective. Because again, originalism is, yes, a very, very conservative sect of people that look at the Constitution and say, no, we must interpret it as the founders intended. No growth, no change. That's why they call it originalist. They look at the original document and interpret it based on what they would think that the founders would do, right? So that's not even part of this, because there's nothing originalist in trying to do activist judges, right? And so he says, well, there's no point. We put this guy up here to give social conservatives wins. That's all. That's the entire point. Activist judges for social conservative causes. And they couldn't even do that, and that's why they're mad, right? All they want is wins to excite their dwindling base. Eric Erickson. You guys know who Eric Erickson is, mostly. He says, all those evangelicals who sided with Trump in 2016 to protect them from the cultural currents just found their excuse to stay home in 2020 thanks to Trump's Supreme Court picks. So now he adds electoral politics into this, right? Which, yes, I understand that does matter when it comes to elections. Like, in 2016, all we heard about is Supreme Court, Supreme Court, Supreme Court. And we're also hearing that this time, better vote for Biden because RBG is not going to make it. I get it. That's an important part to think about, right? Well, just as liberals think about that, conservatives do as well. And that's why, of course, you had Mitch McConnell that literally blocked Obama's appointment, Merrick Garland, for like a year. They knew they wanted to make some appointments, and they got their appointments. And now suddenly they're very, very disappointed in at least one of them. Kavanaugh, of course, voted against this. He voted socially conservative. And look, Gorsuch, yes, led the majority opinion, right? Sided with the liberals. But understand that Gorsuch isn't a social liberal, right? He was just saying, look, we have Title VII. It bans sexual discrimination. Gay and transgender is related to sex. There's really no other way that I can interpret this. I can't. And so I have to interpret it this way. I actually have to do my job, which is really interesting and actually really good of Gorsuch to do. He made a good decision because he was actually doing his job and not being an activist judge. And that's what they're angry at. They're talking about this and saying, well, now, look, I can't believe you were not an activist judge. What are we going to turn out to vote for in 2020 now? Yeah. Now, the good thing is they do admit that the culture has shifted. They've lost the culture wars, right? Progressives have won the culture wars, and Donald Trump was their last grasp at keeping their power and influence and actually preventing change. Again, remember, they wanted to be protected from the cultural currents. I don't like change. You know why? It's because they're afraid of change. They're afraid that they're going to lose their own power if, and influence if someone else actually now is treated equally. And they lose their ability, of course, to basically act on their own bigotry. Now, there's another one here. The now deleted tweet, Josh Hammer, conservative opinion editor at Newsweek, accused Brett Kavanaugh of flaunting his virtue by congratulating gays and lesbians on their win, even while he decided against it. So you can't even say, like, hey, look, I was against this, but hey, you got equal rights now. Congratulations. Can't do that. Rage. Petty. Very, very petty. So, look, there's one more here. Daniel Horowitz called this decision a quote-unquote massacre. Quote, here we go. The conservative SCOTUS codifies transgenderism into 1964 Act. Fourth massacre of the day at SCOTUS. Gorsuch Roberts joined liberals in majority. I opposed both Trump nominees, and I was right. What a pathetic movement. What a fraud. That's real originalism there. Imagine feeling like somehow that people finally getting the rights to not be discriminated against when it comes to getting a job. Something that all conservatives are like, why don't you go get a job? Well, if you allow people to discriminate against people, trans people and gay people, so they can't get jobs and they can't get work and they can't get a place to live, and well, they can't really do that. Now, can they? It doesn't make any sense. But again, unfortunately, a lot of conservatism doesn't. But imagine thinking that them getting the ability to not be discriminated against as a massacre. Oh my God, what a massacre! Really, who got massacred? What did you lose? Oh, right, your ability to be a bigot, to be a bad person, right? To say no, my religion says you got to do what I tell you to do. You can't be yourself. No way, no how. I'm not going to allow you to be yourself. You have to be someone else, someone that I approve in your off time. Because, again, none of this matters when it comes to work. I mean, again, these people are ridiculous. All it is that they just, I mean, it's all about their personal fifis, right? It hurts their feelings. Oh, I want to discriminate against people. And now I can't. How sad. And it goes on and on. This is from, again, conservative thinkers, right? The average conservative person is throwing a complete bitch fit. But look, they never cared about interpreting the law, right? No, what they wanted to do is hold back society and ensure certain people do not have rights. What they should be doing is trying to fulfill the actual promise of America, which is supposed to be, and we're far from it, one nation with liberty and justice for all. All right. A lot of great comments in the chat, guys and gals. But I'm going to move on here.
Testing is so far advanced, it's so much bigger and better than any other country that we're going to have more cases. We're always going to have more cases. And as I said this morning, that's probably the downside of having good testing, is you find a lot of cases that other countries who don't even test don't have. If you don't test, you don't have any cases. If we stop testing right now, we'd have very few cases, if any.
That was President Trump making a pretty insane and reckless statement on COVID-19. Yeah, if we stop testing, I mean, the number of reported cases, the number of cases would go down. No, it would be the number of reported cases. That doesn't mean that the cases don't exist. And I know he's trying to make the statement of, oh, you know, these other countries, right? They're not doing testing. No, actually, the other countries are doing testing. They're actually doing testing far better than we are. And they've actually done, and, you know, look, comparatively, the United States and Brazil are the top two countries that have the most coronavirus cases. In both instances, you have an idiot demagogue that is the leader of the country. Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil didn't believe in coronavirus, didn't take it seriously. And now, oh, look at that. They have 833,000 cases. And the United States has 2.1 million and 116,000 confirmed deaths. And not only that, but a lot of places are seeing increases seeing gigantic spikes in coronavirus cases. So, yeah. But no. Trump says, we should probably do less testing in a way. I mean, if we do more testing, we're going to have more cases. So the subtext of that, at least the way that I read it, is, well, maybe we shouldn't do as much testing. I mean, he has said that before, right? So it's not like it's something new. It's not like fake news, right? That I'm saying, oh, he wants to test less. No, he's talked about that. Oh, we really don't need to focus on testing. I mean, we're doing awesome in testing. So there's really no need. And by the way, the fact that we're doing so awesome in testing is why we've got so many cases. I mean, you know, so let's not test anymore. Why? It's because it looks bad. Not testing doesn't make coronavirus go away. If anything, that makes it get worse, as we would have no idea who has it. So look, all of this is ridiculous. And it kind of scares me that these thoughts are going through the president's head. I mean, hey, if we just stop testing, numbers are going to go down, and then everybody's going to get off my ass about coronavirus. And then my poll numbers will go up, and then the economy is going to get better, and that's going to make my poll numbers go up even more. And now, you know, we're going to do, it'll be better. It'll be great. I'll win easily in 2020. That's what it is. And it's pretty evil looking at this situation. It's an evil way of looking at the situation, of looking at coronavirus. But again, understand, Donald Trump doesn't really care about people. He cares about his PR. He cares about his reelection. And obviously, more coronavirus cases, they really undercut his argument, or they undermine him. And it really shows his failure as a leader, as a strong leader. Remember, his whole entire reelection campaign is about, well, look at what Donald Trump's done over the past few years. He's done an amazing job. Tremendous. Look at the stock. Oh, stock market sucks. Look at the economy. Oh, the economy kind of sucks. What about coronavirus? Oh, yeah. No. Oh, God. What do we got? The wall? Nope. We don't have any of that. Although for a while there were barricades around the White House. So he did build a wall literally around himself as he hid in the bunker. So understand, he doesn't really have a whole lot. Not that it's going to matter for the 30% of the country that Donald Trump is going to have vote for him, that will vote for him no matter what. They could come down with COVID right now, lose their house, not get unemployment benefits, and still will pull the lever for Donald Trump or fill in the circle or whatever. Press the button. They don't care. It's all a liberal plot, right? And that's the thing. So no, he's not winning. He's not winning. There's no winning going on. Anyway, so that said, social media took this this saying and they decided to add a little levity to it, which is why I'm talking about this, because yes, it is disastrous. Yes, it is scary. But man, the dunking. I love the dunking. So let's do that. They decided to take his logic, quote unquote logic, to its natural conclusion. One says, hey, if we got rid of the bathroom scale, I'd fit into skinny jeans. Another says, when I was struggling in math, I kept telling teachers to stop testing me, because then if you don't test me in the math, I can't fail. See, that's brain genius. Another one says, if I close my eyes right now, it won't be sunny anymore. But don't you want it to be sunny? Another one says, if I don't check my bank account, the problem doesn't exist. Big energy. The greatest energy. The best energy. One more. If you stop charging people with murder, you'd have no murder convictions. Nailed it. Logic. Hey, look, if I stopped checking my mail, I'd have no more bills to pay. I should just stop checking my mail. That's it. Child logic, as you guys point out. It's so simple, except for that's not how any of this works. It's not how it works. And yet we have an elected leader that does this. And it's not, again, not only stupid, but super dangerous. And by the way, Donald Trump's not the only one to have ever used this logic on a big problem. For example, you have Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan literally ignored the AIDS crisis. Oh, we don't care about that. It'll go away on its own. Whatever. Didn't matter to him. Didn't matter to Reagan because, look, black people, gay people, he didn't represent those people. The same as modern conservatives. Donald Trump doesn't represent anyone. In fact, Donald Trump only represents himself and his own political and financial interests. And so coronavirus, it's inconvenient, very inconvenient to his reelection plans. And so we're going to downplay it. We're going to minimize it any way we can in order to declare victory when there is no such victory. Okay. I'm going to go to the Florida story next here. And then this is right after this break. It'll be a quick break, and we're going to come back. We've got Donald Trump, a little bit of family drama going in. We find out who leaked the Trump tax story to the New York Times. So we'll come back with that. Stay right here, around the nation, like and share the stream, and I'll read your super chats and thank some patrons and channel members right after this, and we'll dive back into the story. So stay right here, around the nation.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mike Pence.
Wait, you're getting nervous, man.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Like I said, quick break. Elwell with the super chat says, dexamethasone doesn't cure or prevent COVID infection. It appears to help stop some of the damage that can happen when the body's immune system goes into overdrive as it tries to fight off the coronavirus. So look, this is not a cure, coronavirus. There is a treatment, that's steroid. And so it is, again, something that when they were doing the testing of what was an effective treatment, because again, this was supposed to be hydroxychloroquine, right? That was supposed to be the miracle treatment, according to conservatives, according to Republicans. Obviously not true. In the same study, they tested that other drug, and it did have some impact on, again, some of the sickest patients. And so it could be used as an effective treatment in the most dire cases to save lives. And that's a positive thing. That's a good thing. All right. Anyway, thank you for that. Let's thank a couple of channel members first. I want to thank Martin Whaley and Pesyd, Pesyd. Thank you for signing up. And if you want to become a channel member, hit the join button below. Patreon.com/TYTNation is how you can become a patron. I want to thank, Alex and Jim Dow. So thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jim, for signing up. Again, you want to sign up to help the show. Links in the description, how you can help out. All right. Let's move on to Florida here. COVID cases are on the rise in Florida and many other southern states. In fact, Florida has some of the largest spikes of coronavirus as of late. Now, this happened about 1 week after almost all of Florida had transitioned into phase 2 of the state's reopening plan. And as a result, handfuls of bars and restaurants have decided to close and quarantine again after customers tested positive for the coronavirus over the weekend. So now at least 3 bars in northern and central Florida had announced closures because of concerns about the virus between Friday and Sundays, according to Newsweek. And this is as the state's Department of Health confirmed record increases in additional virus diagnoses following days of similar numbers. So now 2 of the 3 bars that are discussed in this story are located in Jacksonville Beach. On Sunday, CBS Jacksonville reporter Jamarlo Phillips shared a photo to Twitter that pictured Lynch's Irish Pub empty. So that's one of the restaurants, one of the bars that decided that they were going to close down. Local news reported that followed cited comments from the pub's owner, Keith Doherty, confirming that it was closed for sanitation after recent patrons tested positive for the novel coronavirus. On Sunday, Phillips shared a screenshot of a statement shared to Facebook by the owner of Rec Tiki Lounge, another Jacksonville bar, announcing its temporary closure. Quote, "Our establishment has become aware of positive tests for COVID-19 and have visited our business." This is according to Tiki Lounge owner Fernando Meza. He said, "We will be closed for the next few days to sanitize the bar and send our staff to get tested. Our establishment, there's the next one here. This is Kiwi's Pub and Grill, saying on Facebook, "It saddens me to say that Kiwi's will be closing temporarily, effective immediately. We have been informed by 6 different people today that have been infected with the coronavirus, and they have been inside Kiwi's within the last week." They added, "This may seem like an extravagant step. However, we are taking no chances with the health of our staff and our customers." Well, maybe it wasn't time to open up. I'm just saying. Maybe it was a little too soon. Maybe Florida wasn't quite ready to open up. Now, they haven't been ready for quite some time. Remember, Ron DeSantis on June 5th permitted bars, taverns, and pubs to open up. Now, they said, well, we're going to open up at half capacity, right? And that's in nearly every Florida county under phase 2 of his reopening guidelines. Now, they had been operating, those same restaurants and bars had actually been operating before. Messages previously shared to Facebook by the 3 bars that recently closed suggested all 4 had reopened to some extent by the 3rd week of May. And so they had actually opened up sooner. Restaurants across Florida, along with retailers, museums, personal care service facilities, and other establishments, started to reopen on May 18th. And as expected, several weeks later, because this virus has an incubation period of about 2 weeks, 7 to 14 days, you now have a gigantic spike in coronavirus cases. In fact, they're literally breaking records. They're breaking records. The DOH reported that its highest daily increase in new cases on Saturday, with 2,581 additional diagnoses confirmed. 2,000. And then, of course, you also had 2,000 the day before. What do you say to this, right? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It was too early to open. We were saying that it's too early to open. And of course, the state of Florida and many other states as well. It's not just Florida. It's Georgia. It's South Carolina. Actually, South Carolina didn't even close at all. Look, you had these states where we said, don't open up. It's not over yet. First it goes to the big cities and then it travels to these other places. And look, that was their chief argument, right? Well, we're not seeing coronavirus here in my little small town. I'm not saying that Jacksonville, Florida is small, but the main conservative argument is, well, it hasn't hit us. And so why should we close? And then first it goes to the big cities and then it spreads out. And then guess what? After it spreads out, it comes back to the big cities. And that's what happens. So that's wave 2. And now we're here. We're having wave 2. It's coming. Although, to be fair, I mean, can we really have a wave 2 when wave 1 wasn't really over to begin with? It's been bad. And so, and look, I understand that some of the argument is, and this is what the administration is saying, well, I mean, we're doing more testing and that's why we're seeing more cases, right? No, it's because states are opening up too early. And in some cases, never closed to begin with. Nobody took it seriously. Ron DeSantis didn't take it seriously. Donald Trump certainly didn't take it seriously. And so now, interestingly enough, DeSantis is like, oh my God, who could have seen this coming? Who could have seen this coming? Well, everybody. Look, Dr. Fauci. He was worried about states reopening, people going out for Memorial Day and partying, people going out to protests without masks and using social distancing, all that stuff Fauci had been warning about. And yet, Laura Ingraham says, oh, Fauci, medical deep state, don't worry about doing the rallies in Florida and Oklahoma. Don't worry about that. It'll be fine. All those people crammed into a small area. And of course, they're not going to do masks. They're not going to do social distancing. And so that's going to be basically a COVID bonanza. Don't be surprised when you see even bigger spikes of infection, not just there, but across the country, because those people who go to those different rallies, they're going to all get it. And then they're going to start spreading it around to their families and friends. And so that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And look, I can forgive people for going out and protesting against police brutality. That's at least worth the risk and important and a worthwhile cause. But I can't forgive the people that decided they wanted to go out to the beach on Memorial Day or get into close quarters and hit the bars. And I certainly don't have any sort of, I can't forgive the people who are out there protesting with their guns, for the right to go to Applebee's and to get a freaking haircut. I mean, if you can't see the difference between protesters protesting to protect life and police brutality, and these other guys. Well, I mean, I can't help you. All I'm saying is, coronavirus wave 2, here we go. Fuck around and find out, I guess. All right. All right. So recently it made news that one of Trump's family members was someone who leaked information to the New York Times. Now, the information that was leaked, of course, was a story about the ways the Trump family, and Donald Trump specifically, would cheat on their taxes. Basically find a way to get around tax laws and do things that are generally illegal to save money. So now that story, unfortunately, didn't get a lot of coverage because, look, there's a lot of things going on. Yes, this was pre-COVID, but everything that was happening with Trump, I think this happened during impeachment. And so every day with Trump is just a torrent of news. Nonetheless, this is important because this is Donald Trump literally making lots of money and finding ways to screw over the taxpayer. And when you do that in your personal life, well, you're also going to do that when you're the head of the government to try to find ways to screw over the government. So now, thing is, right? So now we find out that the person that leaked this is a member of the Trump family. Her name is Mary Trump. So now, why would a member of the Trump family leak this to the press? Well, it turns out it's because of the messy infighting when it came to the family fortune. So this is according to the Washington Post. Quote, the family's eldest son, Fred Trump Jr., became an airline pilot instead of joining his namesake father and younger brother in the real estate business. And so not making very much money as a pilot. And yet, despite that, Fred Trump Jr.'s kids, they still believe that they were due an inheritance. Now, their father, Fred Trump Sr., he died in 1999, but before that, in 1981, Fred Trump Jr. had died from alcoholism at the age of 41. So now they said, okay, well, look, our father didn't want to be in the family business, and then he died, but we're still, supposed to get an inheritance, right, from Fred Trump Sr. Well, didn't turn out that way. In fact, Donald Trump and his siblings fought to keep most of the money for themselves, setting up a lawsuit a year later from Fred Trump III and Mary Trump, accusing their relatives of basically changing Fred Trump's will before he died. So there was a detailed story about that, how he would go in and he would try to manipulate his father as he was dying to try to change that to get the majority, if not all, of the money that Fred Trump had. And he was actually quite successful in doing that, right? So now the other members of the family are like, wait a minute, we deserve that inheritance as well. We were in that will, and actually we need help. Fred Trump III actually has a son with cerebral palsy. So now what happened is that in retaliation to this lawsuit, Donald Trump cut off family company payments for medical care for that young son, William. So now, I mean, that's pretty gross, right? Donald Trump had successfully gotten his daddy to sign over hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And that's after, of course, daddy always being there to bail out his son when he would go bankrupt. And so he still used every dirty, manipulative trick in the book in order to get that money, that inheritance money, and not give it to anyone else. And when somebody had the audacity to challenge him for that, he cut off health insurance and medical payments for a kid with cerebral palsy. It is really, really gross. Super gross, right? They punished the kid. Now, let's see. Fred Trump III, I'm sorry, this is Donald Trump talking to the New York Daily News. He says, at the time, when Fred III sued us, why should we give him medical coverage? But it's not just him, it's the kid too. It's the kid. Why would you do that? I mean, look, Donald Trump's an evil person, right? I know somebody who's like heartless might be like, well, he's being sued. That's because you're stealing the inheritance from that member of the family. So again, evil all around, right? Now, Fred Trump III told the court that his aunts and uncles thought nothing about taking away my critically ill son's coverage in an attempt to browbeat me into abandoning my claim in the probate contest. This is mob stuff. So now he didn't give up. He didn't give up this lawsuit. It didn't work. And Fred III told the Daily News, quote, "You have to be tough in this family. I guess I have what my father didn't have. I will stick to my guns. I just think it was wrong. These are not warm and fuzzy people. They never even came to see William in the hospital." Also adding, "Our family puts the fun in dysfunctional." No kidding. Now, that's, of course, at odds with the image that Donald Trump tries to put out about his family. Oh, no, we're all even. We're all equal here, right? Everything's fine. Everything's what internal family struggles. No, it's fine. It's all good. In fact, here's what he said about this specific situation. "One child was having a difficult time. It was an unfortunate thing. It worked out well, and we all get along." We all get along. Well, look, Fred Trump III, after this was settled, right? And it was settled confidentially. We don't know any of the details of this settlement, right? Fred Trump III has shut up. He's not saying anything, right? Look, I'm assuming that whatever he got was enough and that he was happy about it. But Mary Trump was not happy about this. Mary Trump, very bitter, and she's on the warpath. So now she goes and links to the New York Times and has also been reported to be writing a book or to have written a book. And now she's putting it out about Donald Trump's, of course, family secrets. In fact, Mary Trump said this, there's a quote here: "Given this family, it would be utterly naive to say that none of this has nothing to do with money. But for both me and my brother, it has much more to do with that our father be recognized. He existed, he lived, he was her older son, and William is my father's grandson. He is as much part of that family as anybody else. He desperately needs extra care." So again, this is money that would have gone to Fred Trump Jr. had he not died of alcoholism. And so that money, again, would have been passed, would have went to him, and instead should have gone to Fred Trump III and Mary Trump. So now look, I'm gonna say this, right? I know it's not really related to the story, but it kind of is. Medicare for all. Why don't we just do Medicare for all? So we don't have to worry about Donald Trump being able to do retaliatory strikes against family members in these kind of situations, right? Or maybe not. Maybe just like because Medicare for all is the right thing to do. How about we just go with that? I think everybody deserves care if they need it. But that said, the overall point is this is a glimpse into the nasty family politics of the Trumps. And it is nasty. And look, I wish I could say that this is surprising to me. Oh, but all we've learned, all we know about Donald Trump is how he's all about himself. He's all about money, and he retaliates against people who challenge his money and power and his image in some of the worst ways possible. And we have learned that over these last 4 years. And so this is, and the reason that this matters is that it's not just, if he's going to be able to do this against family, why wouldn't he do this against anybody else? Imagine if he considers himself untouchable. And right now, he might already. But if he wins another 4 years, imagine the other stuff that he's going to do. And so this is the kind of person that Donald Trump is, and he will retaliate if he's given more power against everybody in this country that does not agree with him. And that's just, we can't have that. We just can't have that. Got to get him out. All right. All right. One more here. And that is, hold on. We're going to go to some good news. I like good news. I think we all like good news. All right. Representative Barbara Lee has a new proposal, a new resolution. It calls for the defunding of the Pentagon. She's actually proposing about $350 billion to the military budget by closing U.S. bases overseas, ending ongoing wars, ending certain weapons programs, and scrapping Space Force. So now, she said when she put this out in a statement, quote, redundant nuclear weapons, off-book spending accounts, and endless wars in the Middle East do not keep us safe, especially at a time when families across the country are struggling to pay the bills, including more than 16,000 families across the country that are struggling to pay the bills. We need to take that are on food stamps. We need to take a hard look at every dollar and reinvest it in people. It's time to cut weapons of war and prioritize the well-being of our troops, anti-poverty programs, public health initiatives, and diplomacy. Exactly. So I absolutely agree with her. So let's get into the details, right? So now this comes as the House of Representatives is starting to work on the next year's National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, right? Now the NDAA, the Senate version of this, calls for $740 billion in military spending. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders has said, well, let's cut that by 10%. How about we cut it more? Sorry, Bernie, but look, this is some of the situations where I say Bernie was the compromise, right? Because he's like, hey, let's do a significant cut, 10%. No, me, I'm like 50%. Let's cut it more. Let's slash this budget. You want to talk about defund? Let's defund the Pentagon. Now, Lee says this: we cannot continue to prioritize funding for a department known for its waste, fraud, and abuse. And so this is using conservative language. I love it because it's using their own framing against them. They always talk about how social programs are filled with waste, fraud, and abuse. So much waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, now, I mean, look, there were trillions of dollars that were wasted in Iraq and Afghanistan. Literally money going missing from pallets. You want to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse? Look into the military. Look into the defense contractors. That's where it's at. She says, she points out that they had failed to pass an audit. It's true. And says that especially when the money to protect national security is failing to protect our most vulnerable citizens, it doesn't even protect our troops, really. Remember, the lowest paid soldiers in E1, they get $19,000 a year. Disastrous. It's not going to the troops. It's going elsewhere. Now, let me give you the breakdown of what she intends to do. She intends to save $68 billion by eliminating the Overseas Contingency Operations account, saves $90 billion by shuttering 60% of U.S. military bases overseas. These are bases that really, at this point, we don't really need. $66 billion by ending funding for ongoing U.S. wars, including, again, Afghanistan, Iraq. And of course, we also have these wars in Yemen and other places across the world. She wants to save $57 billion by eliminating obsolete, excessive, and dangerous weapons. $38 billion by cutting military overhead by 15%. $26 billion by slashing private service contracting by 15%. $2.6 billion by dashing Trump's Space Force proposal. $18 billion by ending use it or lose it contract spending. $6 billion by freezing operations and maintenance budgets, and about $23 billion by cutting U.S. presence in Afghanistan by half. So, look, that's a decent amount of cuts. Again, $350 billion. That's about half. I'm in favor. Definitely. So now, Lee's office noted in a press release the Pentagon's budget for fiscal year 2020, $738 billion, was the largest on record and came at the expense of healthcare, education, infrastructure, and public health research. She said, for years, our government has failed to invest in programs that actually keep our country safe and healthy. By over-prioritizing the Pentagon and military solutions, our country is drastically underprepared for any crisis that needs a non-military solution. I think a great example is right in front of us, coronavirus. I mean, we weren't prepared for coronavirus. We had a PPE shortage. We didn't have enough masks. And that's originally why the CDC was wary about saying, recommending that regular people wear masks so that we can save it for medical professionals. Our hospitals, our states, our healthcare system, they weren't prepared for COVID-19. And we're not going to be prepared for the next pandemic. And so our country is also not prepared for other things, not just pandemics, but also climate change related natural disasters, stronger hurricanes, floods, droughts, and other natural disasters. But hey, guys, at least we got Space Force. Pew pew lasers, except we don't even have those. Sad. But we do have lots of missiles, warships, and tanks that we don't really use. Look, a lot of this money, as I mentioned, it doesn't go to the troops. It goes into defense contractors, private industry. They lobby politicians. They spend lots and lots of money lobbying in order to keep that money flowing. So it's not really about defense. It's about really feeding the military-industrial complex. And unfortunately, the problem with that is that we have state governments now that rely on these defense contractor industries. And that's bad. That really has an impact on state economies. There's lots and lots of jobs, right? They have jobs that are tied to making weapons of war. And in order to justify making more weapons of war, to sustain those jobs and to also help with CEO executive pay, we have to have more wars. Got to use them, right? Can't just sit there and make weapons that nobody's using. And so that means endless war. This is actually capitalism. This is destruction for jobs and profit. And Barbara Lee is right. We gotta stop this. We gotta put a stop to it. Cutting the Pentagon budget is the first step, obviously, but we have to end the military-industrial complex. We have to stop building bombs and start building bridges. I mean, we have to invest in our own people. We have to invest in infrastructure. And more importantly, we have to stop bombing people overseas while our country literally falls apart. And that's the issue. There should not be an incentive for endless warfare. And look, hopefully more people are going to be able to see that is, that we don't need this endless warfare. That I know that a lot of us are on the left specifically, and even some on the right are pretty war weary at this point. Even Donald Trump says, I'm going to end the war. Every president says, I'm going to end the wars. I'm going to end the wars. And of course, they never do. But because this is big business, this is gigantic, chunks of spending, of money, of jobs. And nobody living in those districts wants to give up that money because then it hurts their local economies. And so there has to be just a huge change. And not only the culture, of America and the popular opinion, but also people demonstrating in the streets about it. More anti-war protests, more anti-government spending on military measures, on wars and missiles and weapons and all that stuff. It's going to take that before we actually change, before Congress will even consider doing any sort of cuts. But I at least, I give Lee credit for trying, because I mean, something has to be done. We have to trim this budget. We have to reduce our war budget, and also reduce and eliminate. We have to get out of these endless wars, and we have to stop this. We just have to stop this and start investing back in ourselves, into building up a better world instead of tearing down everyone else's. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream. Become a subscriber, patron, channel member, all that stuff. Thank you. I gotta get going. Thank you for super chats and all that stuff. Yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great day. Stay safe, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.
Please clap.
Mike Pounds.
Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.